Hey everybody, Sean here from Somm Wine Club, and I have got some wine for you. This is the 2022 Rieslingfreak number 33 Clare Valley Riesling, part of the August 2024 Somm Wine Club box. I am also a Riesling freak, so I resonate with this wine deeply on so many levels. I know a lot of wine professionals are big Riesling fans, big Riesling freaks, including actually the founder of Riesling Freak, understandably. So Rieslingfreak was started in 2009 by a guy named John Hughes. He grew up in the Clare Valley on his family's vineyard property, and so he was exposed to Riesling from a very young age, kind of developed what he calls a reverence for it, and that reverence over time and as he became an adult turned into a obsession and a passion, and it took him around the world to kind of learn more about Riesling and then back to the Clare Valley to start Riesling Freak. He now has, I think there's 18 different Rieslings. They're all numbered cuvées like this one, expressing different characteristics of the variety from different sites, different style winemaking, different sweetness levels. The number 33 is a dry Clare Valley Riesling. So it comes from two different sites within Clare, one of which is actually his parents' vineyard in called White Hut, which is Terra Rossa soil and limestone subsoil. So you're getting a lot of roundness out of it. And then another site called Polish Hill River, which is owned by the Jayski family. And blending these two sites together has allowed for a really balanced expression of fruit and also mineral driven acidity from the shale and slate that you find in the Polish Hill River vineyard. I was really happy to see that this is 2022 in the market, because 2022 is what was basically heralded in Clare Valley as like a perfect Riesling vintage. The kind of La Nina that arrived kind of in the Pacific in late 2021, early 2022, yeah, 2021, basically meant there was a lot of winter rains in between the growing seasons 2021 and 2022, and also the actual growing season of 2022 was quite a bit cooler than it had been in previous vintages. That being said, so you end up with lots of potential water reserves through the growing season, which means lots of canopy, which means lots of growth, which means a slow ripening kind of through the growing season, aided by those cooler temperatures, preserves acidity, and really makes for what I consider at least to be like the very classic style of Clare Valley Riesling. Lots of cut, lots of mineral, lots of acid, super zesty, lime driven aromatics. And so having that vintage from John and Riesling Freak, just super happy to share this particular Clare Valley Riesling. I lived in Adelaide for a while, and so I would like drive on my days up to Barossa and to Clare and drive around and just kind of take it all in. So I love this region, and like I said, I'm really happy to be able to share it with everybody. It smells like picking up that like bag of fresh limes and just like sticking your face into it. It's lime juice, lime leaf. There's like really tart, crunchy green apple, like the one that you're almost scared to bite into because you know how sour and tart it's going to be. But there's also a really lovely floral note to it, like apple blossom, jasmine, something very like pretty spring like floral character. This wine is handled very gently for Riesling. It's picked by machine at night because that's what John finds is the best way to preserve kind of the freshness of the fruit. He doesn't actually do a press on this at all. He just turns the press and lets it drain. So this is pretty much all free run juice that's then fermented really cool to preserve that zesty, tangy fruit character, and then put to tank to settle and bottled. So really minimal in terms of handling and what they're doing here. It's sustainable viticulture, and I'm just like, I don't want to stop smelling it, but I know that I eventually have to get to the palate. If anybody's seen the Somm documentary, the original one, Ian Cobble, when he's doing a tasting, he says freshly opened can of tennis balls as a descriptor for this TDA, which you get sometimes in Riesling, which kind of smells a little bit like rubber or petrol or kerosene. Sometimes you'll hear people describe it as wet slate because it's a nice way of saying petrol or kerosene or rubber. But this has just a little bit of that, which I very heavily associate with Clare, especially when it's very limey and citrusy and zesty. And then when I get to the palate, like dry as a bone. I say that because the acids are so high that even if there was a little more sugar than there is in this wine, which is 2.1 grams per liter, uh, but it's also like 7 grams of acid. And I know I'm getting technical and nerdy here, but that's a lot of acidity. Like, my mouth is like, what is that you just put inside me? Come on. The cooler season also allows that phenolic ripeness in the grapes to kind of get stretched out over a longer period of time. So the sugar ripeness is slow because there's not really enough heat to develop, so that retains acidity and keeps sugars low. This is only 10.5% alcohol, and it's dry. So they've fermented all of the available sugar pretty much except for 2 grams, which is like minuscule. It's not even noticeable. And it's still only 10.5% alcohol. So this wine was really low in sugar ripeness when it came in, but like I said, a cooler season means that it had enough time over the course of the year to develop a lot of intense flavors, even while keeping the sugars low and the acids high. Yeah, it's literally like a big squeeze of lime on top of literally everything. And that leads to food. You definitely want to play off of this really intense bright citrus character. So things that incorporate lime and aromatic spices, things like ginger. There's a little touch of like kind of candied ginger spice to this wine as well. Cilantro, uh, chilies, lemongrass. These things that are like pretty heavily associated with things like Thai or Vietnamese works super well with Clare Valley Riesling, and especially with this one. And because there's so much acidity, you can do other things that have a little bit more fat. So like incorporate some kind of fatty element to it, whether that's fish tacos, whether that's like Thai fish cakes with lots of ginger and garlic and chilies and lime. You can do like sesame crusted tuna. You can do oysters if you are particular to like really kind of briny, zesty oysters. You can do that here. This also has enough acidity to work with things like Weisswurst, like white sausage. I don't know that I would go to like really rich, heavy sausages. I think you want to keep the seasoning to a minimum so that you're actually just letting the fat and the acid kind of play and dance together. But there's so much to the nose on this wine, and it's just like I can probably, let's see, I can smell that from here, and that's 6 inches from my nose because this wine's just kind of. Mm, this is how much of a Riesling freak I am. I just like get lost in the sauce here, and I'm like, this smells so good. Uh, yeah, from one Riesling freak to another. Uh, thank you, John, for making. Thank you, Peter from Sir Lee, for bringing this in. And thank you all for picking up a Somm Wine Club box, so you get a chance to try this wine. It's gone now. There's no more available to order for this vintage. So what's in the boxes is what there is. Oh, I'm gonna go sit down and drink the rest of this glass of wine. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that everybody enjoys their bottle of the Rieslingfreak number 33 from Clare Valley, and we'll see you guys all next time.